Hello everybody, it is Nicole from eKiwi and welcome to my Inktober 2018 review. So this video is just going to cover my thoughts on the process, and I will show you all these sketches of all of these so that you guys kind of see my process, or at least see what I was doing. So as you can see, this is a pretty thick pile. I use the Strathmore Bristol paper smooth, and each one I only use black, white, and a color, which was just any alcohol-based marker. So the first two we have are the Seasonal Witch, where I chose Winter, and the next one is the Vagabond Witch. And for these ones I'm showing them together because I drew them together. So here's the sketch. Now you can see that they are significantly smaller than the actual drawing, and I did trace them, but not these ones specifically. What I did was I scanned it and then I made a copy of it. So here you can see the larger versions. Because I didn't really want to redraw it on Bristol board, I decided that I was just going to trace it using a light box. And for these ones, I did like how they turned out, so I just ended up enlarging it on a copier. So that's these ones. And that's how I got these here. So the next one is the Garden Garden Witch. I'm mixing up all of my terms because I remember in my Fairy Friday video I said witch instead. So here is the sketch. Now you can see it's pretty true to what it's supposed to be, I guess. And this little corner is where I did my draft of the pose. And I do sketch pretty clean, I would say, so it doesn't really look like a sketch. But you'll see in the other images that there's some messy sketches in there. And this one I decided to clean up just because there's a lot of detail and I didn't want to miss it when transferring it over. So the next one is the Socialite Witch, and here is the sketch for this one. I think, in my opinion, the sketch turned out better than the final, but there's not much I can do about that. I'm gonna go through these pretty quickly just because there's a lot of them, 31 of them, and I already talked about them in each video, so you don't really have to listen to me talk about them again. So next we have the Seamstress, and here is the sketch. It's interesting because it looks different in the sketch compared to the final result, mainly because I don't know what color to use, so usually I just use my pencil. And this is kind of where I decide what tones are like the light, medium, and dark tones. Then we have the Lunar Witch, and it's funny because the Lunar Witch was designed after the Solar Witch. So here's the Lunar Witch here. And then the Solar Witch was designed first. And this is kind of where I was drafting some poses. But they were meant to be together, so I like the sketches more. I think just because maybe they have more contrast, or just the shadows instead, because in the actual images they don't have shadows because they're just mainly a color, black and white. So maybe these ones just have more dimension and that's why I like them more. But yeah, they're supposed to go together and almost mimic each other, which is why I designed them similarly, which you can see here. Oh. So next we have the Candy Witch, and this is kind of where I start getting a little messy with my sketches. So because I have a little bit messier sketches, or I guess you could say looser, where the line is not definitive, a lot of the guesswork for the line work was inside of the transferring process. So this one is pretty loose, there's no definitive lines, so some of them I had to guess where I wanted to put it and whatnot. And then we have the Space Witch, and this one actually started off as an astronaut, and she did have a back pose before, but I ended up changing it to this one, and I do like this one better. I do like the sketch more, but I'm probably going to say that for most of them because I feel like I just like sketches more than the final, but some of them, most of them, I like the sketches. Next we have the Royal Witch, and this one I actually did in a different sketchbook, so it is in this sketchbook, and the reason why I have it in a sketchbook instead of on loose leaf paper is those first 9 I did back home before I moved because I needed to put videos out before I moved up because I needed to settle in, and I didn't want to skip any Inktober, so those were done at home, and then these were the first ones that I've done here in another state. So here you can see it's pretty sketchy, and they're in the sketchbook because I did them in bed. I was kind of lazy, but I still wanted to get work done, so I was just in bed sketching. And there's this one. So in this case, I do like the final more than the sketch. I think it's just because it's more definitive, and that's just how it turned out. And then here we have the vet. And this one I actually did very last minute. On the day that it was supposed to be posted is when I drew it, and I finished filming it, editing it all on the same day. So this one was very quick, but I do like how it turned out. Again, I think I like the sketch a little bit more, but I explained before that we kind of like sketches because our eye sees the best line for us. So when we give a final line, maybe it's not the one that you pictured in the first place, and which is why we like sketches more. So the next one here is the Music Witch, and it's on a half sheet of paper because it wasn't my sketchbook, but I had to trace it over, so I just cut it because there was another image on the side, which you'll see soon. So here's the Music Witch, and I kind of made little notes on this page saying like white lines, which is what I have here, and white lines on her shirt, and just to remind myself that these are what I want to include in the final, or at least what I want to include in the concept. So next we have the Technology Witch, and she is on the same page as the Potion Brewer, which is not the next one, but is here, the 15th, I believe. So Technology Witch, as you can see, I forgot our eyelashes, and then the Potion Brewer is here. For this one, I had it on the other sheet of paper with the Music Witch. So you can see I didn't really draft them in order, just because I did whatever I felt like. And in this case, I like the sketch more too. So here we have the Baker Witch, and she is done on this piece of paper, which was in another sketchbook, but it had perforated lines so I could tear it out. And she is on the same page as the Raven Witch, which I don't think, yeah, it's not the next one. The next one is the Cat Witch. That's over here. And she is kind of in the same pose that I drafted in the first place. But definitely a different color scheme, if you can tell. I was gonna make it a black shirt and then maybe like a gray or whatever color I chose would be this like light gray color. The only problem is that I have a couple other shades in there, which isn't the same thing. So she turned out different from what I expected, but I do like how she turned out. Then the next one is the Raven Witch, and I had to move her a little bit because her hat was off the page. So what I did when I traced it was I just moved it upwards. So next we go into the Wind Witch, and this is where I started using a different sketchbook. So I got this sketchbook at Walmart for like $5, and it was the perfect size because it would be the right size for me to trace over. The only problem was when I traced it over on the light box, it could only go so far to trace, so I had to kind of move them over. So you'll kind of see all of them kind of lean to the left, since that's the farthest I could go. But all the rest of the sketches are all in here. So here's the Wind Witch. These are where I started to get a little messy because I didn't really need to flesh out the entire concept if I knew what I was doing. So I didn't even bother to like erase her leg lines, but I do the leg lines just to know where her balance is and her center point so that I know that the pose is stable. And then we have the Gemstone Witch. I think I like the sketch more. I think it just turned out the way I wanted it to more. But the details that I added in here I do like. So I like both of them, but I like the sketch a little bit more. If you couldn't tell. Then we have the Goth Punk Witch. And I think her mouth kind of shrunk a little bit. So her attitude kind of went down. The Spider Witch, and this is kind of where I, again, left it really sketchy because I knew what I was gonna do. The only problem with leaving it so sketchy is that when you do use a light box, it's kind of hard to see the line that you want to trace. So that's the only problem, but since I kind of knew what I wanted to do, I just left it. And the Pirate Witch. This is also when I started to rush a little because I was falling behind. Oh, opposite ways. The Beach Witch. Or like someone said in the comments, the Sand Witch. Then this one is, I would say, the messiest and most interpretive one is the Artist Witch. And it's because I knew what I was gonna do, so I just did the pose first, which is very messy, and then I just add all the details in. You can see it's very different from, say, this sketch, because this is very loose and like unfinished, and this one is like, I know what color I'm gonna use and where I'm gonna put it and stuff like that. But I think as I went on, I kind of just got looser in my interpretation. Like you can see here, I didn't even erase her leg lines, but that's also because I had to make sure I knew where the pose was. And this was the original pose, if you can see it, her arms were up, but it didn't really work out, so I changed it to this one. Then we have the Fire Witch, and someone did mention on Instagram that they didn't know where her eyes were. So her eyes are looking all the way to the right. I think I made them thinner over here, which is why they're a little harder to see, but hopefully you can tell where they are over here. And you can kind of tell that I didn't know I was going to add in the fire. Then we have the Dream Witch, and it's funny because these ones kind of look like two different people. I think it's because I made her eyes too close here compared to this one, and that was probably just lost in interpretation when I transferred over the image. So the next one, we're getting down to the last few, is the Tea Witch, and this is probably the case where I like the final a little bit more. I think I just cleaned it up a little more, and I think I made her neck shorter. It looks kind of long here, but I don't think it looks too long over here. But yeah, they kind of look pretty similar, so I like how that one turned out. Then we have the Casual Witch. I like the sketch better. I think I just have a bias towards sketches. I just like sketches, and maybe it's just the color scheme. The fact that it's all grayscale is probably more favorable to me. And then the last one we have is my Witch Sona, which is just me, Tomi, and Tofu. They're not witches, but they're in costumes, and yeah, so I knew that this one was going to be pretty simple because my hair is black, and that would be the biggest piece, so that's what I did. The only thing that I would mention is that I forgot the neck before when I transferred it over, so I had to add it in with white pen to make it look like I actually had a neck, because if I didn't add it in, it would look like I had a floating head. That about wraps up this Inktober review for 2018. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is the very first time that I actually finished all 31 days. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Keep drawing, keep painting, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!